I'm standing in my cramped studio apartment kitchen, reheating leftover pizza, while scrolling through Facebook photos of my sister Jessica's elaborate college graduation celebration. The images blur together. Crystal chandeliers, professional photographers, relatives I barely recognize raising champagne glasses. My phone buzzes with a call from my Aunt Diane at 7 in the morning. Her voice trembles as she says the words that will change everything. Sweetheart, you might want to see what your father just posted on Facebook. I think you deserve to know the truth about why they've always treated you differently. My blood runs cold as I open the app. My hands shake as I scroll through my father Robert's profile. There it is, posted at 2:30 in the morning, clearly meant to be a private message, but accidentally shared publicly. The alcohol must have made his fingers clumsy on his phone screen. Bill, I don't know what to do about Barton anymore. You know he's not really ours, right? We took him in when he was 3 after the accident, but I never felt the same connection. Jessica's our real daughter, the one who deserves everything. I feel guilty sometimes, but blood runs thicker than water. Maybe it's time we stop pretending we're one big happy family. The words hit me like a freight train. Adopted. I've been adopted this whole time, and nobody told me. 25 years of my life, and I never knew the people I called mom and dad weren't actually my parents. My phone rings again. Aunt Diane's voice is gentle, but urgent. Honey, I saw the post before he deleted it. I took a screenshot. Your Uncle Bill forwarded it to me by accident, thinking I already knew. You knew, I whisper, sinking onto my secondhand couch. We all suspected something wasn't right, but Robert and Linda swore us to secrecy. They said they'd tell you when you were ready, but… She pauses. Sweetheart, you were supposed to be told years ago. Memories flood back with painful clarity. Christmas mornings where Jessica unwrapped expensive electronics, while I got discount store clothes. School plays where the auditorium seats next to mine stayed empty, while Jessica's performances drew standing ovations from our parents. Family vacations where Jessica got her own hotel room, while I slept on uncomfortable pull-out couches in the lobby. I remember Linda's comments now. Jessica has her mother's eyes, and the apple doesn't fall far from the tree whenever Jessica accomplished something. When I achieved good grades or won awards, the response was always lukewarm. That's nice, dear. Or, don't get too big for your britches. Even yesterday's graduation debacle makes sense now. Jessica's celebration cost thousands of dollars, the rented ballroom at the Marriott, the professional photographer who took family portraits for 2 hours, the catered dinner with lobster and filet mignon. The surprise announcement of her fully paid trip to Greece with her sorority sisters drew squeals of delight and tears of joy. My graduation from community college 3 weeks earlier consisted of a grocery store card that read, "Congratulations, Brandon," instead of Barton, and reheated Chinese takeout from 2 nights prior. I thought they were just going through financial difficulties. I even felt guilty for wanting more. Diane. I say, my voice cracking. Do you know anything about my real parents? Her silence stretches too long. Oh, honey. There's so much more to this story than you know. Can you drive out to see Helen this morning? She's been waiting 25 years to have this conversation with you. Helen. You mean the old lady I visit sometimes, the one who always gives me cookies and asks about my job. Barton, sweetheart, Helen is your grandmother, your biological mother's mother. The phone slips from my hand and clatters on the floor. Helen. Sweet Helen, who always seemed so interested in my life, who remembered every detail I shared, who slipped me $20 bills and said it was just because. Helen, who hugged me a little too long when I left her house, who always had tears in her eyes when she said goodbye. I pick up the phone with trembling fingers. Aunt Diane, what else haven't they told me? Helen has documents, sweetheart. Important ones. Your parents. Your biological parents. They left you things. Robert and Linda were supposed to be temporary guardians until the legal adoption could be finalized, but… Her voice breaks. They've been lying to all of us. After hanging up, I sit in stunned silence. The Facebook post is gone now, deleted, but the damage is done. I screenshot Diane's copy before it disappears too. Evidence. Proof that my entire life has been built on a foundation of lies. I think about all the times I wondered why I felt like an outsider in my own family. The inside jokes I never understood. The photo albums where I appeared less frequently as the years went on. The way Robert and Linda spoke differently to Jessica, with warmth and pride that never quite extended to me. My phone buzzes with a text from Jessica. Dad's freaking out about something he posted by accident. Did you see anything weird on Facebook? Even she knows. Even my sister, who I've spent my whole life trying to impress and protect, knows the truth about who I am and where I came from. The betrayal cuts deeper than Robert and Linda's deception. Jessica has been complicit in this lie, watching me struggle for acceptance in a family that never considered me a real member. I grab my jacket and car keys. It's time to visit Helen and learn the truth about who I really am. Helen's front door opens before I can knock. She must have been watching from her living room window, waiting for my old Honda Civic to pull into her driveway. Her face is streaked with tears, and she's clutching a box of tissues in one hand and her cell phone in the other. "Oh, my precious boy," she whispers, reaching up to touch my face. "I've been praying for this day for 25 years. Walking into her cozy living room feels different now. The photos on her mantle that I always assumed were distant relatives suddenly make sense. The young couple in the wedding portrait have my eyes, my jawline, my smile. The baby pictures scattered throughout the room show a little boy who looks exactly like me at that age. "Diane called me," Helen says, settling into her favorite armchair, while I sit across from her on the floral sofa. "She said Robert finally slipped up and posted something he shouldn't have." I show her the screenshot of the Facebook post. Helen's face hardens as she reads, her kind eyes flashing with an anger I've never seen before. "That man," she says through gritted teeth. "That selfish, greedy man." She disappears into her bedroom and returns with a wooden chest I've seen on her coffee table countless times but never questioned. Inside are documents, photographs, and legal papers that tell a story I never knew existed. "Your parents were Michael and Sarah Chen." "No, wait, I'm sorry, sweetheart. I'm nervous. Your parents were Michael and Sarah Patterson. They died in a car accident when you were 3 years old. A drunk driver ran a red light on Highway 49. Helen's hands shake as she shows me the death certificates, the newspaper clippings, the obituaries that describe 2 young teachers who were beloved by their community. My father taught high school mathematics. My mother was an elementary school art teacher. They were driving home from a movie when their lives ended. "You were staying with me that night," Helen continues. "Sarah was my daughter, my only child. She and Michael had asked me to babysit while they went on their first date night in months. When the police came to my door..." She can't finish the sentence. I stare at photos of parents I don't remember. Michael Patterson has my height and build. Sarah Patterson has my brown hair and the same dimple in her left cheek that I see in the mirror every morning. Robert and Linda were friends of your parents from church. They offered to take you temporarily, while social services sorted out the legal guardianship. I was 68 years old, recently widowed, and the caseworker thought a younger couple would be better equipped to handle a traumatized 3-year-old. Helen opens a manila envelope and pulls out bank statements that make my jaw drop. Account balances with numbers I've never seen outside of lottery commercials. "Your parents had life insurance policies, Barton, substantial ones. They also had savings investments, and your father had just inherited property from his grandmother. When they died, everything went into a trust fund for you." The numbers swim before my eyes. $412,618. That's what the most recent statement shows, dated just 3 months ago. "The money has been earning interest for 22 years, Helen explains. "Robert and Linda were supposed to use it for your care, your education, your needs. Instead..." She pulls out more documents, records of withdrawals, transfers, and payments that paint a picture of systematic theft. Private school tuition for Jessica, dance lessons, gymnastics classes, summer camps. A new SUV purchased when Jessica turned 16. College application fees, SAT prep courses, and finally, 4 years of tuition at an expensive private university. They've been using your inheritance to give Jessica the life your parents worked so hard to secure for you. I feel sick to my stomach. Why didn't you stop them? Why didn't you tell me? Helen's face crumples. I tried, sweetheart. I called, I wrote letters, I even went to their house. Robert threatened to get a restraining order against me. He said if I tried to contact you directly, he'd move you across the country where I'd never see you again. She shows me copies of letters she sent to Robert and Linda over the years, pleading with them to tell me the truth. Their responses are cold and legalistic, written by an attorney who warned her against interfering with the guardianship arrangement. I've been slipping you money whenever I could, Helen admits. Those $20 bills I'd give you. The times I'd insist on buying your lunch when you visited. I was trying to help without raising suspicion. Everything clicks into place. Helen's excessive generosity, her intense interest in my life, the way she'd cry when I left. She wasn't just a lonely old woman who enjoyed my company. She was a grandmother desperately trying to maintain a connection with her only grandchild. There's more, sweetheart. Helen's voice drops to a whisper. Robert and Linda never legally adopted you. You're still listed in the system as a temporary placement. That means you're entitled to Social Security survivor benefits that should have been coming to you all these years. She shows me government documents that make my head spin. Monthly payments of $837 that have been going to Robert and Linda since my parents died. Over 20 years, that's more than $200,000 in benefits meant for my care. Jessica knows about all of this, Helen says quietly. She's known since she turned 18. Linda told her about the inheritance and the benefits during her senior year of high school. The betrayal hits me like a physical blow. My sister, who I've always tried to protect and support, has been aware that I'm being robbed of my birthright. She's been complicit in the lie, enjoying the fruits of my parents' sacrifices, while I struggled to pay for community college with part-time jobs and student loans. Helen reaches into the wooden chest one more time and pulls out a small velvet box. Inside is a man's wedding ring, simple gold, with an inscription that reads, "Forever yours, Michael." Your father wanted you to have this someday, she whispers. Your mother's engagement ring is in there too, along with some jewelry that belonged to her grandmother. I slip the ring onto my right hand. It fits perfectly. Helen. I say, my voice stronger now. What can we do about this? Her eyes light up with hope. The attorney who set up your trust fund has been trying to reach you for years, sweetheart. Robert's been intercepting all the mail. She knows something isn't right, but she needed to speak with you directly to take action. She hands me a business card for Margaret Thompson Estate and Trust Attorney. There's a handwritten note on the back. Please contact me immediately. Time sensitive regarding Patterson Trust. Margaret's been building a case for years, Helen explains. She suspected fraud, but couldn't prove it without your cooperation. With that Facebook post and your willingness to come forward, we might finally be able to get justice. As I prepare to leave, Helen hugs me tightly and whispers, your parents would be so proud of the man you've become. You have their kindness, their strength, and their sense of right and wrong. Don't let Robert and Linda steal that from you too. Margaret Thompson's law office sits in a renovated Victorian house downtown, her nameplate gleaming beside the heavy oak door. She greets me in the reception area herself, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and graying hair pulled back in a professional bun. Her handshake is firm, her smile warm but tinged with sadness. Barton Patterson, she says, studying my face. You look exactly like your father. I met Michael and Sarah several times when they were setting up their estate plan. You were just a baby then. Her office walls are lined with law books and framed certificates, but it's the thick manila folder on her desk labeled Patterson Trust, Urgent, that draws my attention. She opens it to reveal hundreds of pages of documents, correspondence, and financial records. I've been trying to reach you for 7 years. Margaret begins, her voice tight with controlled anger. Ever since you turned 18, and should have been notified about your inheritance. Every letter I've sent to Robert Caldwell's address has gone unanswered. She slides a stack of returned mail across the desk. Certified letters, regular mail, even overnight packages, all marked "Return to Sender" or "Refused" in Robert's handwriting. The dates span from my 18th birthday to as recently as last month. The trust your parents established has very specific terms. Margaret explains, opening a legal document. You were supposed to receive a notification and partial access to funds at 18, with full control transferring to you at 25. That deadline passed 3 months ago. The revelation hits me hard. I turned 25 in March, which means I should have had complete control of my inheritance since then. Instead, I've been living paycheck to paycheck, working double shifts at a warehouse job to afford my tiny apartment and community college tuition. There's more, Barton. Margaret's expression grows even more serious. Robert has been receiving Social Security survivor benefits on your behalf since your parents' death. Those payments should have stopped when you turned 18, but he's been filing forms claiming you're still his dependent. She shows me government documents that make my stomach turn. Form after form filed by Robert, claiming I have developmental disabilities that prevent me from managing my own affairs. Medical reports from doctors I've never heard of describing mental health conditions I don't have. This is fraud on multiple levels, Margaret says bluntly. Identity theft, wire fraud, mail fraud, and benefit fraud. The FBI takes this very seriously, especially when it involves Social Security and substantial amounts of money. The numbers she shows me are staggering. Over the past 22 years, Robert and Linda have diverted more than $600,000 from accounts that belong to me. The trust fund, the survivor benefits, even a small inheritance from my paternal great-aunt that I never knew existed. I've been documenting everything, Margaret continues, but I needed you to come forward voluntarily to pursue criminal charges. The Facebook post your aunt showed me provides evidence of Robert's admission to treating you differently because you're not his biological child. She opens her laptop and shows me a spreadsheet tracking every dollar that should have come to me. Tuition payments for Jessica's private school, dance lessons, piano lessons, gymnastics competitions, a luxury family vacation to Hawaii when Jessica graduated high school, even cosmetic dental work for Linda, all paid for with my inheritance. The most disturbing part, Margaret says, lowering her voice, is that Robert recently contacted me asking about procedures for having you declared legally incompetent. My blood runs cold. What does that mean? If a court declares you mentally incompetent, Robert would gain permanent legal guardianship and complete control over your finances. He's been laying groundwork for this for months. She shows me correspondence between Robert and a psychiatrist named Dr. Gerald Hubbard. The emails discuss Barton's declining mental state and the need for protective intervention. There are references to medication and therapy sessions that I've never attended. Dr. Hubbard has agreed to provide testimony that you're incapable of managing your own affairs, Margaret explains. In exchange, Robert has been paying him substantial fees and promised him additional compensation. The conspiracy runs deeper than I imagined. This isn't just about money anymore. Robert and Linda have been systematically working to erase my legal rights and independence, turning me into a permanent ward of their control. There's something else, Margaret says, her voice dropping to a whisper. Last week, Robert called my office, asking about procedures for inheriting from someone who dies without a will. When I asked why he was interested, he mentioned that people with severe mental illness sometimes have shortened life expectancies. The implication makes me feel physically ill. They're not just planning to control my life. They're planning for my death. Margaret, what can I do? She leans forward, her expression determined. We can file criminal charges tomorrow. The FBI has a task force that handles financial crimes against vulnerable adults. With the evidence we have plus your testimony, We can build a solid case. But I need you to understand, she continues. This will destroy Robert and Linda's lives. They'll face federal charges, significant prison time, and financial ruin. Jessica will likely be charged as an accessory, since she's been knowingly benefiting from the fraud. I think about Jessica's graduation party, her trip to Greece, her expensive education. Every opportunity she's had was built on the foundation of my parents' deaths, and Robert and Linda's greed. What about my money? Can we get it back? Most of it, yes. We can force asset seizure, wage garnishment, and property liens. Your trust fund principal is still intact, though Robert has been borrowing against it. The accumulated interest and survivor benefits will take longer to recover, but we have legal grounds to reclaim everything. Margaret hands me a business card. There's an FBI agent I work with regularly on financial crimes. Agent Patricia Williams specializes in family fraud cases. Are you willing to meet with her tomorrow? I look at the photos Margaret has shown me of my real parents. Michael and Sarah Patterson died, believing their son would be cared for, and loved that their hard work and sacrifice would give me opportunities and security. Instead, their trust was betrayed, their memory dishonored, and their child turned into a source of income for people who saw him as a burden. Yes, I say firmly. I want to file charges. Margaret smiles for the first time since our meeting began. There's something else, Barton. Something that might help you understand why Helen has been so patient and hopeful all these years. She opens a sealed envelope that's been in my file for over 20 years. Inside is a letter in my mother's handwriting, written shortly before she died, and entrusted to Margaret with instructions to give it to me when I learned the truth. The letter is addressed to my darling son, and filled with expressions of love, hopes for my future, and promises that even death wouldn't break the bond between us. At the bottom, my mother wrote, "If you're reading this, it means someone failed to tell you who you are and where you come from. Don't let their failures define your worth. You are loved, you are wanted, and you deserve every happiness this world can offer." As I fold the letter carefully and slip it into my jacket pocket, I realize that tomorrow won't just be about justice or money. It will be about honoring my parents' memory and reclaiming the life they worked so hard to give me. That evening, I drive to Robert and Linda's house for what I know will be my last family dinner. I still have a key from when I house sat for them 2 summers ago, and I'm counting on their assumption that I'm too trusting and naive to suspect anything. Robert greets me with unusual enthusiasm when I arrive. His smile seems forced, his handshake too firm, like he's overcompensating for something. Linda fusses over me at dinner, repeatedly, asking if I'm feeling well, and if I've been taking care of myself. "You know, Barton," Robert says over dessert, "Linda and I have been thinking you might benefit from talking to someone. A professional counselor. We know an excellent psychiatrist who specializes in young adults going through transitions." "Dr. Hubbard is wonderful," Linda adds quickly. "Very understanding, very patient. He's helped several families we know." The name sends chills down my spine. Dr. Hubbard, the same psychiatrist Margaret mentioned who's been conspiring with Robert to have me declared incompetent. "I'm feeling fine," I say carefully. "Why would I need a psychiatrist?" Robert and Linda exchange a meaningful look. "Well, son, you've seemed a bit scattered lately, unfocused. Sometimes when you visit, you seem confused about simple things." I realize now that the drowsiness and confusion I've felt during recent visits wasn't from being tired after long work shifts. They've been drugging my food, creating symptoms they can later use as evidence of mental decline. "I should probably head home," I say, standing from the table. "Early shift tomorrow." "Actually," Robert says, blocking my path to the door, "we were hoping you'd stay a while longer. We have some paperwork to discuss. Legal stuff that needs your signature." Linda disappears into the home office and returns with a stack of documents. Power of attorney forms, medical proxy authorizations, and guardianship papers. All prepared by Robert's attorney, all designed to give them complete legal control over my life. It's just a precaution, Linda explained sweetly. In case something happens to you, we want to make sure you're protected. I pretend to read through the documents while my mind races. This is a lot to take in. Can I think about it overnight? Robert's friendly demeanor shifts subtly. Son, these things really can't wait. Dr. Hubbard explained that sometimes people with your challenges have difficulty making important decisions. It's better if caring family members help guide the process. They're accelerating their timeline. Something has spooked them, probably the deleted Facebook post and the questions from extended family. They need my signature on these documents before I figure out what's really happening. What challenges? I ask, my voice carefully neutral. Oh, sweetheart, Linda says with fake sympathy. You've always been a little slow. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Some people just need extra help managing complicated adult responsibilities. The gaslighting is so blatant, it's almost comical. Years of subtle put-downs and dismissive comments suddenly make sense. They've been systematically undermining my self-confidence, making me doubt my own intelligence and capabilities. I really do need to think about this. I insist, moving toward the door. Robert steps closer, his voice taking on a harder edge. Barton, you're not leaving here until you sign these papers. Dr. Hubbard explained that you're not capable of making these decisions on your own. The mask is completely off now. Robert's true nature shows through his concerned father act, revealing the calculating manipulator underneath. I'm 25 years old, I say firmly. I can make my own decisions about legal documents. Not according to your medical records, Linda says triumphantly. Dr. Hubbard has been documenting your mental decline for months. Memory problems, confusion, difficulty concentrating. All signs of serious cognitive impairment. I stare at them both. These people who've been playing loving parents while systematically destroying my life behind the scenes. Medical records from a doctor I've never met for appointments. I've never had... Robert's face flushes red. You have met Dr. Hubbard. Several times. Your memory problems are getting worse. They're so deep in their lie that they're starting to believe it themselves. Or maybe they're just desperate enough to keep pushing, even when the deception is falling apart. I'm leaving now, I announce, pulling out my car keys. No, you're not, Robert says, grabbing my arm roughly. You're not mentally competent to drive. Dr. Hubbard was very clear about that. In that moment, I see exactly who Robert really is. Not a struggling father trying to do his best for an adopted child, but a predator who's been systematically isolating and exploiting a vulnerable young man for over 20 years. I pull free from his grip and walk toward the door. Don't touch me again. Barton, please, Linda calls after me, her voice breaking with fake emotion. We're trying to help you. We love you. I turn back to face them both. If you loved me, you wouldn't be lying to me about who I am. If you loved me, you wouldn't be stealing my inheritance. And if you loved me, you definitely wouldn't be planning to have me declared mentally incompetent so you can control my life forever. The shock on their faces confirms everything Margaret told me. They weren't expecting me to know about their conspiracy, and they certainly weren't prepared for me to fight back. Robert recovers first, his expression turning cold and threatening. You don't know what you're talking about, boy. You're confused and paranoid. Dr. Hubbard warned us this might happen. Then, I guess I'll have to let Dr. Hubbard know that his patient won't be needing his services anymore. I say, opening the front door. If you walk out that door, Robert shouts, don't expect to be welcomed back. We've done everything for you, given you a home and a family, and this is how you repay us. I pause in the doorway. You gave me a roof over my head while you stole my inheritance. You gave me leftover food while you fed Jessica steak dinners paid for with my parents' life insurance. And you gave me a family name while hiding my real identity from me for 25 years. Linda starts crying, but I can see the calculation behind her tears. We love you like our own son. We always have. No, I say quietly. You loved Jessica like your own daughter. I was just a source of income that came with an inconvenient child attached. As I drive away from their house for the last time, I feel a weight lifting from my shoulders that I didn't even know was there. For 25 years, I've been trying to earn love and acceptance from people who were incapable of giving it. Tonight, I finally stopped trying. The next morning, I meet with FBI agent Patricia Williams in a sterile conference room at the federal building downtown. She's a woman in her 40s, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, accompanied by Detective James Harrison from the local police department's white-collar crime unit. Your attorney has briefed us on the situation. Agent Williams begins opening a thick folder. What we need from you is detailed testimony about your experiences and your willingness to participate in gathering additional evidence. Detective Harrison leans forward. The challenge in family fraud cases is proving intent and establishing a pattern of deception. Your word against theirs might not be enough for conviction, but if we can document them actively concealing information or making false statements, we have a much stronger case. They explain their plan. I'll return to Robert and Linda's house, wearing a recording device pretending to apologize for my behavior and agreeing to sign the legal documents. If I can get them to explain their reasoning on tape, admitting to knowledge of my real identity and inheritance, will have evidence of conspiracy and fraud. Are you comfortable doing this? Agent Williams asks. There's some risk involved. If they become suspicious, they might become hostile. I think about my mother's letter, about Helen's tears, about 25 years of stolen birthright and deliberate deception. I want to do this. 2 days later, I knock on Robert and Linda's door, carrying a bouquet of flowers and wearing a tiny recording device taped under my shirt. Agent Williams and Detective Harrison wait in an unmarked van 2 blocks away, monitoring the audio feed through my hidden microphone. Barton, Linda exclaims, clearly surprised to see me. What a lovely surprise. I wanted to apologize, I say, handing her the flowers. I was confused the other night, stressed about work and just not thinking clearly. Robert appears in the doorway, his expression wary but hopeful. Son, we were worried about you. When you left so abruptly, we thought… I know, I interrupt. Dr. Hubbard was right. Sometimes I get paranoid and suspicious for no reason. I should have listened when you said I needed help. The relief on their faces is immediate and obvious. They invite me in, offering coffee and cookies like nothing happened. Linda even suggests we call Dr. Hubbard to schedule an emergency session. Actually, I say carefully, before we do that, I wanted to understand some things. About my adoption, about my real parents. I know I get confused sometimes, but I feel like there are gaps in my memory. Robert and Linda exchange a look. This is the moment of truth. Either they'll maintain their lies, or they'll feel confident enough to reveal the scope of their deception. Well, son, Robert begins slowly, your biological parents died when you were very young. We took you in because we felt sorry for you, but we've always treated you like our own. What about my inheritance? I ask. Helen mentioned something about life insurance. Linda's laugh sounds nervous. Oh, sweetie, there wasn't much money involved. Your parents were just school teachers. Whatever small amount there was went to your care and upbringing. They're still lying even when they think I'm mentally impaired and compliant. This isn't just about hiding their theft. They genuinely believe they're entitled to everything my parents left behind. I appreciate everything you've done for me, I continue. I know raising someone else's child couldn't have been easy. It wasn't, Robert admits, his guard dropping slightly. Especially knowing that you weren't really ours. Blood means something, Barton. Jessica is our flesh and blood, our legacy. You're someone we helped out of Christian charity. The words sting, but I force myself to stay calm and keep drawing him out. Is that why Jessica gets better things? The big graduation party, the trip to Greece. Jessica deserves those things, Linda says firmly. She's worked hard, and she's achieved so much. She's our daughter, our pride and joy. It's natural that we'd want to celebrate her accomplishments. What about my accomplishments? I ask quietly. Robert's expression hardens. Son, let's be honest. You graduated from community college after 6 years of part-time attendance. Jessica graduated summa cum laude from one of the best universities in the state. There's no comparison. I feel the old familiar shame trying to creep in, but now I understand it's been deliberately cultivated. They've spent years undermining my confidence, while giving Jessica every advantage, then used the predictable results to justify further discrimination. I suppose you're right, I say meekly. I've never been as smart as Jessica. It's not your fault, Linda says patronizingly. Some people are just born with limitations. The important thing is recognizing them and letting people who care about you help manage your life. Like Dr. Hubbard. Exactly, Robert says enthusiastically. Dr. Hubbard understands your condition. He knows how to help people like you live safe, structured lives without the stress of making complicated decisions. People like me, people with developmental delays, cognitive impairments, that sort of thing, Linda explains sweetly. It's nothing to be ashamed of, sweetheart. Plenty of adults need guardianship and supervision. They're openly discussing their plan to have me declared incompetent, describing it as a mercy rather than a crime. In their minds, they're not stealing from me. They're protecting me from myself while ensuring their real daughter gets the advantages she deserves. I brought those legal documents back, I say, pulling the papers from my jacket. I think you're right. I should sign them and let you handle the complicated stuff. Robert practically snatches the documents from my hands. That's very mature of you, son. Dr. Hubbard will be proud of this decision. As I pretend to read through the guardianship papers, Robert starts explaining their long-term plan, with the confidence of someone who believes his audience is too impaired to understand the implications. Once these are signed, we'll have legal authority to manage your finances, your medical care, even where you live, he says. No more worrying about bills or rent or any of that adult nonsense. You can just focus on simple things like your part-time job and your little hobbies. What about my inheritance? I ask innocently. Even if it wasn't much, shouldn't I know about it? Linda laughs. Oh, honey, that money has been taking care of you all these years. Food, clothing, housing, medical care. Trust me, it's been well spent on your needs. All of it. Every penny, Robert confirms. Raising a child costs a lot of money, especially one with special needs like yours. Actually, we've spent more on you than we received. We've been generous to a fault. The lies are so blatant, so casually delivered, that I'm amazed they've maintained this charade for decades. They've rewritten history in their own minds, turning their theft into charity and their deception into kindness. I'm grateful, I say, picking up a pen. You've sacrificed so much for me. We have, Linda agrees. But that's what good Christian people do. We help those who can't help themselves. Just as I'm about to sign the first document, my phone buzzes with a text message that makes my blood run cold. It's from Agent Williams. Get out now. We've intercepted communications. They're planning to drug you tonight. I look up at Robert and Linda, who are watching me expectantly. You know what I think? I should have Dr. Hubbard review these papers first. Make sure I understand everything correctly. Robert's smile falters. Son, these are simple documents. You don't need a psychiatrist to explain basic legal language. I insist, I say firmly, standing and folding the papers. Dr. Hubbard said I should never make important decisions when I'm feeling confused or pressured. You're not confused, Linda says sharply. You're being perfectly clear and rational. The contradiction in their logic is stunning. Minutes ago, I was too mentally impaired to make my own decisions. Now that I'm refusing to sign their documents, I'm suddenly rational and clear-thinking. I'll come back tomorrow after I've talked to Dr. Hubbard, I say, moving toward the door. Barton. Robert says, his voice taking on the threatening tone I heard 2 nights ago. You're not leaving here without signing those papers. Actually, I am. I reach for the door handle. Robert moves to block my path while Linda picks up her phone. Maybe we should call Dr. Hubbard right now, she says. He can come over and help Barton understand why he needs to sign these papers tonight. In that moment, I realize how close I came to being trapped. If I had signed those documents, if Agent Williams hadn't warned me about their plan to drug me, I would have woken up tomorrow as a ward of the state, with no legal rights and no way to fight back. "I'm leaving," I announce, pushing past Robert. "No, you're not," he says, grabbing my arm with enough force to leave bruises. "You're staying here until we get this sorted out." I look directly at him, no longer pretending to be confused or compliant. "Robert, I know about the trust fund. I know about the survivor benefits. I know about Dr. Hubbard's fraudulent medical reports. And I know you've been planning to have me declared incompetent so you can steal what's left of my inheritance." The color drains from both their faces. Linda drops her phone, and Robert loosens his grip on my arm. "You don't know what you're talking about," Linda whispers. "I know exactly what I'm talking about," I reply. "And tomorrow, so will the FBI." The FBI raid happens at 6 in the morning, 2 weeks after my recorded confrontation with Robert and Linda. Agent Williams calls me at 5:30 to let me know they're moving in, and I drive to their neighborhood to watch from a safe distance, as federal agents and local police surround the house with search warrants and arrest orders. Through my car window, I see Robert in handcuffs shouting something about his rights, while Agent Williams reads him the charges: financial fraud, identity, theft mail, fraud conspiracy, and abuse of a vulnerable adult. Each count carries significant prison time. Linda collapses on the front lawn when they arrest her, crying about how this is all a misunderstanding. Detective Harrison helps her to her feet with professional courtesy, but I can see the disgust in his eyes. He's been working financial crimes for 15 years, and he told me yesterday that this case ranks among the most callous he's ever seen. Jessica arrives just as they're loading her parents into separate police cars. She's clearly been crying, her expensive yoga clothes wrinkled like she slept in them. When she sees me watching from across the street, her expression shifts from grief to rage. "This is all your fault," she screams, running toward my car. "You destroyed our family." I roll down my window but stay seated. "Jessica, they destroyed our family 25 years ago when they decided to steal my inheritance and lie about who I am." "You're being dramatic," she says, but her voice wavers with uncertainty. "They love you. They've always loved you." "They love the monthly survivor benefit checks and the trust fund they've been raiding for decades," I reply calmly. "They've never loved me." Agent Williams approaches my car. "Ms. Caldwell, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud and accessory to identity theft." Jessica's face goes white. "I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't know about any of this." Agent Williams holds up printed copies of text messages between Jessica and Linda discussing the Barton problem and how to keep him from finding out about the money. There are emails about hiding documents and coordinating stories. Jessica's digital communications prove she's been an active participant in the deception since her 18th birthday. "You can explain your involvement to a judge," Agent Williams says, placing handcuffs on Jessica's wrists. As they lead her toward a police car, Jessica turns back to me. "Barton, please. We're family. Don't let them do this to me." "Family doesn't steal from each other," I say quietly. "Family doesn't lie to each other for 25 years. And family doesn't try to have each other declared mentally incompetent to cover up their crimes." Dr. Hubbard is arrested separately at his office, where agents discover files for at least 6 other victims of similar guardianship fraud schemes. His medical license is suspended pending investigation, and he's charged with conspiracy fraud and providing false medical testimony. The search of Robert and Linda's house yields boxes of evidence, falsified medical records, hidden bank statements, correspondence with attorneys about guardianship procedures, and even recordings they made of our conversations designed to make me sound confused and impaired. Agent Williams shows me some of the recordings while we wait for the search to conclude. Robert and Linda had been editing normal conversations to remove context, leaving only moments where I paused to think or asked for clarification. They plan to use these as evidence of cognitive decline in their competency hearing. They've been planning this for years, Agent Williams tells me. The medical reports, the psychiatric evaluations, even coaching Dr. Hubbard on what symptoms to document. This wasn't a crime of opportunity. This was a systematic, long-term conspiracy to rob you of your identity and your inheritance. 3 hours later, the agents emerge from the house with computers, documents, and financial records that will form the backbone of the federal prosecution. Margaret Thompson arrives to represent me during the evidence collection, ensuring that items related to my parents' estate are properly identified and protected. "How do you feel?" she asks, as we watch the FBI van drive away with Robert, Linda, and Jessica inside. "Relieved," I say, honestly. "For the first time in my life, I feel like I can breathe." Detective Harrison joins us on the sidewalk. "The prosecutor wants to meet with you next week to discuss your testimony. With the evidence we've collected plus your recordings, this should be a straightforward case." "What kind of sentences are they looking at?" "Robert and Linda will probably get 3 to 5 years federal time plus restitution. Jessica might get probation and community service since she's younger and less central to the conspiracy. Dr. Hubbard is looking at losing his license permanently and substantial prison time." As the police cars and FBI vehicles clear out, neighbors emerge from their houses to gawk at the scene. Several approach me to ask what happened, and I realize that for the first time, I have a true story to tell about my life. I found out I was adopted and that my guardians had been stealing my inheritance. I explained to Mrs. Patterson from next door. The FBI arrested them for fraud. "Oh my goodness," she gasps. "We always wondered why you seemed so different from Jessica. You were always such a polite boy, but they never seemed proud of you, if you know what I mean." Even the neighbors noticed. 25 years of subtle mistreatment and emotional neglect had been visible to everyone except me. Helen arrives just as the last police car pulls away. She parks her old Buick and hurries across the street with tears streaming down her face. "Is it over?" she asks, hugging me tightly. "The arrests are over," I say. "The healing is just beginning." That afternoon, Margaret Thompson calls with news about asset recovery. The FBI has frozen all of Robert and Linda's accounts and placed liens on their property. The house, the cars, even Jessica's college education fund will be subject to seizure to pay restitution. "Your trust fund principal is intact," she reports. "Robert was borrowing against it, but hadn't touched the core investment. With interest and penalties, you're looking at recovering about 80% of what was stolen. It's more money than I ever imagined having. But the real victory isn't financial. For the first time in my life, I know who I am and where I came from. I have a grandmother who loves me, an inheritance my parents worked hard to provide, and legal recognition of the injustices that have been done to me." That evening, I sit in Helen's living room, looking through photo albums of my biological parents. She tells me stories about their courtship, their wedding, their excitement when I was born. These are memories that Robert and Linda tried to steal from me, connections they attempted to sever permanently. "Your mother would be so proud of how you handled this," Helen says, pointing to a picture of Sarah Patterson holding me as a baby. "She always said you were going to be a fighter." "I didn't feel like a fighter for 25 years. I admit. That's because they were systematically breaking down your spirit," Helen replies. "But you survived it, and when the moment came to stand up for yourself, you did. That takes incredible courage." As I drive home to my apartment, I realize that everything is about to change. I have the resources now to go back to school, to move somewhere new, to build the life my parents always wanted me to have. But more importantly, I have the truth about who I am, and the knowledge that I'm worthy of love and respect. The boy who felt like an outsider in his own family is gone. In his place is a man who knows his worth and won't accept anything less than he deserves. 6 months later, I'm standing in the graduation auditorium at State University, wearing a cap and gown that I paid for with my recovered inheritance. This time, the audience section reserved for family is filled with people who actually want to be here. Helen in the front row with a bouquet of flowers, Aunt Diane with her camera ready, and three cousins from my father's side of the family who drove 6 hours to celebrate with me. The past half year has been transformative in ways I couldn't have imagined. Robert received 4 years in federal prison, plus 5 years of probation. Linda got 3 years, and full restitution requirements. Jessica received 18 months of probation and community service, but she also has to repay every dollar of educational expenses that came from my trust fund. Dr. Hubbard lost his medical license permanently and received 2 years in federal prison. The investigation into his practice uncovered a network of corrupt guardianship schemes that victimized dozens of vulnerable adults. Agent Williams told me that our case broke open one of the largest elder abuse conspiracies in state history. The financial recovery exceeded even Margaret Thompson's projections. Between seized assets, insurance payouts, and accumulated interest on my trust fund, I recovered nearly $700,000. It's enough to finish my education, buy a house, and start the nonprofit organization I've been planning. The Patterson Foundation for Adoption Justice officially launched 3 months ago with a mission to help adoptees who've been victimized by guardianship fraud. We've already assisted 12 families in recovering stolen inheritances and exposing corrupt guardians. The work feels like a tribute to my parents' memory and a way to ensure other children don't suffer what I endured. My relationship with Helen has blossomed into the grandmother-grandson bond that should have existed all along. We have dinner every Sunday, where she continues sharing stories about my parents and my early childhood. Last month, she gave me my mother's engagement ring and suggested I'll know when I've found someone worthy of receiving it. I've been in therapy for 4 months, working through the complex trauma of discovering that my entire childhood was built on lies and exploitation. Dr. Rebecca Martinez has helped me understand that the emotional abuse was just as damaging as the financial theft, and that healing requires grieving the family relationship I thought I had. You've been mourning the loss of parents who never actually existed, she explained during one session. Robert and Linda created personas of caring guardians while systematically undermining your self-worth and stealing your birthright. Recognizing that duality is crucial to moving forward. The therapy has helped me understand that my feelings of inadequacy and confusion weren't personal failings. They were the predictable result of 25 years of calculated, emotional manipulation designed to keep me compliant and dependent. I've had no contact with Robert, Linda, or Jessica since their arrests. Margaret Thompson handles all legal communications, and I've requested that they not be given my new address or contact information. Forgiveness may come someday, but it's not a priority right now. My focus is on building the life my parents wanted me to have. 3 weeks ago, I moved into a small house 2 blocks from Helen's neighborhood. It has a yard where I'm learning to garden and a home office where I manage the foundation's operations. For the first time in my adult life, I wake up each morning knowing that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. The house came with a surprise buried in the basement storage room. I found a box that the previous owner had forgotten. Inside were dozens of letters addressed to me from Helen, dating back 15 years. Robert had been intercepting not just legal mail from Margaret Thompson, but personal correspondence from my grandmother, who was desperately trying to maintain contact. Reading those letters was both heartbreaking and healing. Helen had written about birthdays, holidays, achievements she was proud of, and memories she wanted to share. She'd been documenting my life from a distance, loving me consistently, even when she couldn't express it directly. One letter, written on my 21st birthday, contained a passage that brought me to tears. My dearest Barton, I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I want you to know that your parents' love lives on in the man you're becoming. Every act of kindness, every moment of perseverance, every time you choose hope over bitterness, you honor their memory. You are exactly who they dreamed you would be. The foundation work has connected me with other adoption fraud survivors who've shared similar stories of stolen inheritances, hidden identities, and systematic emotional abuse. We've formed a support network that meets monthly sharing strategies for healing and advocacy for legal reforms. Last month, I testified before the state legislature about the need for stronger oversight of guardianship arrangements and mandatory reporting when substantial inheritances are involved. The testimony was covered by local news, and I've been invited to speak at 3 universities about adoption rights and financial exploitation. The boy who once felt ashamed of wanting more than leftovers and misspelled cards now speaks publicly about the importance of knowing your worth and demanding the respect you deserve. Every speech, every foundation case, every survivor we help feels like a victory over the people who tried to erase my identity and steal my future. Helen and I visited my parents' graves for the first time together 2 months ago. She brought fresh flowers and told them about my graduation, my foundation work, and the man I've become. Standing at their headstone, I finally felt the connection that Robert and Linda had stolen from me, the knowledge that I am loved, valued, and part of a family legacy worth honoring. "They would be so proud," Helen whispered, squeezing my hand as we stood in the quiet cemetery. "I think they'd be proud of you too," I replied, "for never giving up on me." The diploma ceremony ends with the traditional cap toss, and I watch my mortarboard sail through the air alongside hundreds of others. This time, when I walk across the stage to receive my bachelor's degree in social work, the applause from my family section is genuine and enthusiastic. Helen tackles me with a hug that nearly knocks me over when I reach the bottom of the stage steps. "Your parents are smiling down on you today," she says through happy tears. As we pose for photos with my diploma, I realize that this moment represents more than educational achievement. It's the culmination of reclaiming my identity, honoring my parents' sacrifice, and building the life they always wanted me to have. The money Robert and Linda stole could have been recovered through legal action, but the years of emotional damage required active healing and conscious choice. I chose to transform my pain into purpose, my isolation into advocacy, and my stolen childhood into a foundation for helping others. Tonight, we're having a celebration dinner at Helen's house with extended family I'm still getting to know. Aunt Diane is bringing her famous chocolate cake, my cousin Marcus is driving up from college, and Helen has been cooking my mother's recipe for pot roast all afternoon. It's the kind of family gathering I always watched from the outside at Robert and Linda's house, wondering why I never felt truly included. Now, I understand the difference. Genuine love multiplies when shared, while conditional acceptance divides when questioned. As I pack up my graduation photos and head home to prepare for dinner, my phone buzzes with a text from Dr. Martinez. "Proud of how far you've come. Your parents would be amazed by your strength and grace." Standing in my driveway looking at the house I own and the life I've built with my recovered inheritance, I think about the Facebook post that started this journey. Robert's drunken confession of treating me differently because I wasn't really his son was meant to be a private complaint to his brother. Instead, it became the key that unlocked 25 years of hidden truth. Sometimes the worst betrayals lead to the greatest liberations. Robert and Linda's greed and cruelty ultimately freed me from a family that never valued me and connected me with people who love me unconditionally. I learned that family isn't about blood or legal documents or shared last names. It's about people who celebrate your successes, genuinely support you unconditionally, and never ask you to diminish yourself for their comfort. Real love multiplies when shared. It doesn't divide when questioned. And sometimes the greatest gift you can give yourself is the courage to demand the respect you've always deserved. The boy who once felt grateful for leftover Chinese food and misspelled cards is gone forever. In his place stands a man who knows his worth, honors his parents' memory, and refuses to accept anything less than the love and respect he was born to receive. As I unlock my front door and step into the house my inheritance made possible, I smile, knowing that my parents' greatest dream has finally come true. Their son is home, he's whole, and he's exactly who they raised him to be, even though they couldn't be there to see it. Have you ever discovered something about your family that completely changed how you understood your childhood? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more stories about overcoming family betrayal and finding your true worth. Share this with anyone who might need to hear that they deserve better than they've been accepting. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I hope it reminds you that you're worthy of genuine love and respect, no matter what anyone has told you otherwise. Until next time, keep believing in your own worth and never stop fighting for the life you deserve.